Today, we're going to learn how to break through insomnia and get the sleep we so desperately need.
Your someday starts today. It's time to explore and test the newest science, methods, and trends for creating a life you love with your host, Tanyamfk. Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to My Design Life, where we learn and test the latest science, tips, tools, and strategies for you to create your best life every day. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk and on the My Design Life Show podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Marie Figueres-Kreisinger, more easily known as Tanyamfk. You are here to learn not only how to create your best life, but how to live it now. And I am thankful that you showed up. Now, the goal of my guest today is to put you to sleep. With a master's in holistic nutrition, she is an expert in gut health and combines sleep foundations, stress resilience techniques, and lab testing to find underlying health issues, allowing her to get to the root of her clients' insomnia, finally putting them to rest. A certified sleep consultant, she has been featured in numerous publications such as Thrive Global and is an international speaker on the topic. If you have watched any of our past episodes, you have heard from guest after guest about the value of sleep. But today, you're going to learn how to finally get some. So please welcome Mrs. Sandman herself, Martha Lewis. Welcome, Martha.
Welcome to My Designed Life.
Thanks, Tanya, for having me.
Yeah, I am so excited to dive into this topic because sleep is one of those few pieces of health advice that humans actively try to disprove or work against, wearing their lack of sleep almost as a badge of honor. So I know that you work with high achievers and you must come against this mindset really often. So before we dive into the causes of insomnia or how we can make our sleep lives better, I was hoping maybe you could remind the audience of the very real issues associated with poor sleep.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the long-term effects of not getting enough sleep are huge. You have an increased risk of many chronic diseases. So like heart disease, diabetes, depression, Alzheimer's, even some cancers. All of these are associated with getting fewer than 7 hours of sleep a night.
Wow.
Yeah, but I think what's more important, or we can identify more easily with, are the short-term effects that, affect us in our everyday life. And especially affects high achievers too, because it affects your ability to problem solve and learn new tasks. It affects your ability to make good decisions. If you have impulse control issues when you haven't got enough sleep.
So that's when you're on Amazon too much, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or kind of speaking out without thinking. And of course, you're more irritable and impatient. I know this is true for me with my son and family members, especially. Like, you tend to be more irritable with those who you're closest to. It affects your productivity. It affects your creativity. It affects your motivation and how positive you are. And it can lead to brain fog. And so, your focus as well. So yeah, all these reasons add up to luckily go against this kind of societal view right now that you can sleep when you're dead, or, it's okay to go without sleep. It's actually not, and it's going to make you not as great in the goals you're trying to achieve and in your everyday life.
Right. Yeah. All of those things that you mentioned completely go against every concept of productivity, high achievement, not being able to make the decisions, being moody, brain fog, all of those things. Those do not help us achieve more. Yet there's this belief, there really is this idea, well, if I just stay up a couple more hours, if I plug through the night, I'll get more done. But it's really the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly. And this has been going on for the past, not even a couple hundred years, that kind of society's views about sleep changed. And it happened because of two things. First of all, the Industrial Revolution, which really started focusing on efficiency and productivity. And that's where the 8-hour workday came in and all those concepts. And so people started seeing sleep as a waste of time because they weren't productive or efficient while you're sleeping. And then the other reason is because of the invention of the light bulb. And this wasn't that long ago, a little over 100 years ago, which is pretty crazy to think. But that also gave us the ability to stay up all hours of the day and night and work or do whatever else. And so, yeah, it's just been really in recent history that our views about sleep have changed.
Right.
Luckily, I hope the tide is turning as we're becoming more aware about the importance of sleep. And, people like Arianna Huffington are writing books and telling
Yes.
her story about not sleeping. And Dr. Matthew Walker, who wrote Why We Sleep, is, all of these books are becoming more popular, and people are now having trouble sleeping as well. And so there's
Yeah.
lots of information out there now
It's
about
a lot
sleep and the
more. There's a
importance of
self-care
sleep.
movement that's
Yeah.
making its little steps, right? Hoping to see that shift and how important this life necessity really is. We don't
Yeah.
give up food, we don't give up water, but we still try to negotiate our sleep.
Yeah, I love that. And it is one of our basic 5 needs.
Yeah.
So we'll literally die without getting enough sleep.
Yes, yes. People go insane to a certain point and then they can actually die. Like, I mean, we laugh, but it's very serious. Like, you can
Yeah.
actually die from lack of sleep, people. Like, this is a very real thing. And you mentioned the Ariana Huffington. I know we've mentioned her a couple times on the show as well, that if you haven't read her book, guys, she was to a point of exhaustion. She fell asleep. Like, when we say fall asleep, it sounds nice, but she literally fell, like hit the desk, and I think broke her nose, right? Like, she was
Yeah,
from exhaustion. And once waking
exactly.
up in a pool of her own blood, went, I think I need to change my habits. So
Yep.
let's not get to that point. Now, you came through this experience from your own deprivation, if you will, right? Wasn't it also through, I believe, your son had some sleep issues, and then you had your own sleep issues? Can you tell us a little bit how you got into this?
Yeah, exactly. So I got into the sleep world with my son, who as a baby wasn't a great sleeper. I ended up becoming, well, first I hired a consultant to help me with his sleep. And then I ended up becoming a sleep consultant to help other parents with their babies and kids sleep. But the ironic thing is that even after he was sleeping and sleeping through the night at 6 months old, for another year and a half, I wasn't sleeping. And my issue started in late pregnancy, which I figure was hormones, but they didn't go away even after he was born and sleeping great. And what would happen to me is I would try to go to bed early because I was so exhausted. And then I would just lie there and take forever to fall asleep.
Mm,
And then I would wake up at 3 or 4 and not be able to go back to sleep until 6, when it was, time to get up, when my son was
right.
waking up. So yeah, by this point, I had a young baby. I was still working a full-time job. I had
Wow.
started my business as a pediatric sleep consultant, and I wasn't sleeping. And
You're a
I was
very tired sleep consultant.
yeah, it was horrible. I was miserable, and I totally felt like a fraud. So
Yeah. Yeah.
luckily, Dana Obelman, who I trained with for pediatric sleep, also offered an adult sleep certification. I decided to take that, and I was pretty skeptical that it would help because I already knew a lot about sleep, I thought. But it turns out adults are very different, of course, and it's more about habits and, you know, things like that make a big impact. So luckily, I did make some changes to some of my habits, to my schedule, to my activity level, to what I was eating and when. And doing that all at once, within a month, I was sleeping great again, like
Wow.
99% of the time, which is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so now I help adults with sleep. But then I also always had this thought in the back of my head, like, what if someone has something going on health wise that is keeping them from sleeping? Like what I had learned so far, while very important and covering all the foundations of sleep, it wouldn't be enough to help someone if they had something else going on. So more recently, I trained with Christine Hansen from Sleep Like a Boss, and she taught me about testing for underlying health issues that affect sleep. So we look at things like gut health, and if you have a food sensitivity, and hormone balance, and thyroid, and put that all together to really get to the root cause of what's keeping people awake. So
Wow.
yeah, now I'm excited to
That's
help.
yeah, that is really interesting. Because I think anyone hearing that right now would probably just like, wait a minute, gut health, how is that keeping me awake? How are these other issues? Food sensitivity, I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
Can you go into that a little bit? Because that's fascinating.
Totally. Well, it all has to do with our stress hormone cortisol. So that is the main hormone that sabotages our sleep. It's, it suppresses melatonin, and so makes it hard to sleep. And we should pretty much have 0 levels of cortisol at night.
Right. And cortisols are kind of the stress hormone.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And it's actually a really important hormone that wakes us up in the morning and keeps us alert throughout the day. And it is an important part of that stress response. So I live in the mountains. I like to say if I'm hiking in the mountains and a bear starts chasing me, my body is
You
going to
want some
release cortisol and other hormones, that are literally going to help me fight, hopefully not, or run from that bear. But the thing is, our bodies don't know the difference between being chased by a bear and the everyday stressors in life. So
Right. And
running
an
late for
annoying
work,
inbox.
rushing around, like all this stress we have all day long, we still have that same stress response, even though we don't need to run from or fight something. And so if you're having that high cortisol all day, then it's hard for it to lower at night. So
And
that's
this can be
how.
brought on by food?
Yes, I will get into that, I promise.
Okay.
I know I'm kind of deviating.
No, please.
But yeah, so that's how, like everyone I think knows that stress impacts our sleep. And that's how, because of those hormones. So back to like the gut, if you have an unhealthy gut, like a parasite, for example, which actually it's estimated that 85% of us do, or
that's
bacteria.
like sink in, everybody.
Yeah, right.
Sink in. Your chances more than likely are that you do have one than you don't. Like, okay.
I know, right? I know it grosses everyone out. I found out I have a parasite, so I've been there.
I was going to say, you can stop right here and just rush to her contact information and get a hold of her and be like, fix this right away.
Yeah, right. It is actually really important to fix it because they're causing inflammation.
Yikes.
But parasites, bacterial, fungus like candida, all of these things are nocturnal. And so it's at night that they are eating and excreting and releasing toxins and causing inflammation. And cortisol is also an anti-inflammatory hormone. So whenever there's inflammation, your body releases cortisol.
Wow.
That's the main reason I see people waking up at that 3 or 4 a.m. is because of some kind of gut infection like that.
So let me just tie this together. So cortisol is already reducing our melatonin, which is what helps us sleep. And then if we're eating foods or things that are causing inflammation or any of these other issues, the parasite, candida, things like that, then not only is our daily stress creating high cortisol levels, which is reducing our melatonin, making it hard to sleep, but then at night, these issues are producing more cortisol, which is also now just adding to the sleep problem and making it more difficult for us to get any kind of sleep, let alone any restful sleep. Like it's just compounding.
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. So that is foods. Are there specific foods or things that is it just like dependent on the person?
Yeah, exactly. So how food sensitivities play into it, it does have to do with inflammation. So say someone's body doesn't like broccoli, for example, what we think of as this very healthy food, but if your body's producing antibodies against it and causing inflammation, then that can cause you to wake up at night. So, broccoli isn't a super common one. Like, so most of the common foods that cause that are going to be gluten and dairy and things like that. My theory or my belief is that ideally we should be able to tolerate most foods. So if you have a healthy gut, then you don't have these food sensitivities. So it still kind of all goes back to the gut, but finding out what foods you're sensitive to and eliminating those and letting the gut heal is key to repairing that gut and to sleeping better if that's what's causing your issues.
So it's so amazing because I think there are a lot of things that maybe as we are embarking on this journey of trying to get better sleep, we are learning maybe no screen time, which is helpful. We learn, maybe to meditate or do something calming before bed. But if somebody is just not seeing the relief, this is a whole other area they may have never considered to actually look at your foods. Like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Like those foundations have to be there and following all the sleep rules, I call them. But I like to say if you're already doing that, and, I work with people who have been struggling for years and decades and some even all their life. And so they know all the things to do and they've tried it and nothing works. Like this is why, because we're not addressing the body part, the physical
Mm.
part of what's going on. And then it gets into your mind too, when you've been struggling for that long. And so you have to address that and address stress as well to lower cortisol overall.
Wow. Yeah, that's a whole trifecta there. So your mindset, because I know for me at the nights that I've had hard sleep, then not only are you having a hard time sleep, but then you're upset about not being able to sleep. So now you're
Right.
angry on top of that, you're frustrated. And then that spills over to the next day with our attitude, our, not being able to be patient with those we love, which then can damage relationships. You're not doing as good, as well at work. So many of these things, I could just see that being such a vicious cycle. So rough. And then, I think the first thing that most people think of as trying to get better sleep, unfortunately, are the sleep aids. Can you tell us a little bit why that's not the best option?
Yeah, well, sleeping pills pretty much knock you out and don't actually give you the same kind of sleep you would get if you were sleeping naturally. So that's one big reason you're not spending the same amount of time in the stages of sleep that have all these different functions. Like you need to be in deep sleep to restore. REM sleep is where a lot of creativity happens. So yeah, you're not getting the benefits of a good night's sleep on sleep aids. And they have tons of side effects as well that
Right.
aren't good for you. I mean, a lot of people don't feel good taking them. They still feel drowsy the next day. And so that's not really an improvement in your
Yeah.
day. Yeah. And, sleeping pills have their time and place. If you're had something traumatic happen, for a few nights, it's fine, but you can become addicted really quickly and then have something called rebound insomnia when you try to get off, where your insomnia
Oh
gets even
my.
worse. And yeah, and they're like a drug. And so your body builds up tolerance and you need more and more for it to be effective.
It's
So
not a
it's
long-term
definitely,
solution.
no, definitely not. It's not a rabbit hole you want to go down if you can avoid
Yeah.
it.
I heard
Yeah.
one of our guests one time explained that it's essentially like being under anesthesia. And a lot of people have heard stories of people under anesthesia doing plenty of things, having full conversations, kind of doing wild things because you're not actually really asleep. You're knocked out, but your mind's still conscious. Everything's still going, like almost you just don't recognize it. So I think it's hard for people to understand, like those sleeping pills, you're out of it, your eyes are closed, but you're actually not getting rest. There's so much, your conscious is still very much awake. You're just under anesthesia at that point.
Right. Exactly.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So what are, so there's a lot here. We've kind of said sleep is a thing to take seriously. There are a ton side effects of not getting proper sleep. We've combated that there is a belief out there that you can beat it, that somehow you're going to be the one to win the race against it. And I think we've real quickly right at the bat said that's just not true. Our body actually needs it, can die without it. Just extremely serious. That those of us who are high achievers, or really, I mean, we say high achievers and there's a special niche, but ultimately for anyone who wants to accomplish anything, sleep's necessary, right? Well, it's necessary for our, productivity, our mood. As we've said, you can be grumpy, you can be, impatient, it can affect your relationships. So we have all of those issues. We learned amazingly that the food and all of these things are connected. So what are some of the other sleep myths? As we're going, if we're listening to this and going, okay, oh my gosh, Martha, like there's a lot here. I'm realizing I have some poor habits. So I'm going to start getting my, 8 hours of sleep and everything's going to be great. Is that how it works? Or are there some other things we need to take into consideration?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's this 8 hours concept, which is an average. The recommendation is 7 to 9 hours, but for everyone, it's different. So, and it's different at different times in your life as well.
Mm.
So, I think the ideal is to go to bed at the same time, let your body wake up naturally, not wake up to an alarm clock, which puts you into a state of stress and releases cortisol in your body.
Especially with some people's alarm clocks. They have these awful sounding like fire alarm. Oh, just drives me nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
But literally for some people, 7.5 hours is great, or they need, like, I need more like 8.5 most nights. So, The 8 is an average, and it's different for everyone, is my point.
How can we find out
Yeah.
like what works for us? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, if you give yourself a chance to not wake up to an alarm clock every morning, that's the ideal. If you haven't been getting enough sleep, one thing is to, when you go on vacation for a week, is to let your body sleep however long it needs to. And the first few days, it's probably going to sleep longer to catch up. But then toward the end of the week, you're probably sleeping the amount that you normally need to sleep. So whatever that is, between 7 and 9. Yeah. So that's one way to know.
Okay.
But
And if we're testing that, we should probably try to keep it around the same time as far as going to bed and then seeing when we wake up.
Exactly. Yeah. Our body really uses light and food and other cues to keep our body clock in check. Our body clock, we follow this 24-hour day, but our body clocks are a little different. Some people's are a little bit less, some people's are a little bit more. They've like done experiments where they kept people in caves where it was dark all the time and tracked their sleep. And yeah, some people's body clocks would be 23 and 3/4 hours or
Wow.
a little over 24. So anyway, to keep our body clock in check, we use things like light and sunshine. And so going to bed at the same time and waking up at around the same time help just keep our body clock in check and make it easier to go to sleep when it's time to go to sleep at night.
Okay. So it's a good way to kind of find out what your body needs. Don't assume that there is just a magic number for everyone. There's something that's specific to you. And then what are, you kind of mentioned the light, which immediately made me start thinking about the screen time stuff we've learned, that how the screen and the blue light and things can keep us awake. So what are some of the common causes besides the food, things that we're doing to ruin our chances of a good sleep?
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, the light plays a huge role. So again, not too long ago in our evolutionary history, we were, in nature a lot, and we were rising with the sun and going to bed with the sun, and there weren't all these light bulbs and artificial lights. So those definitely, they aren't strong enough to keep our body clock in check, but they can also keep us awake because they suppress melatonin. And so that's why it's so important to dim the lights a couple hours before bed, to be off screens at least an hour before bed, and because again, your body's using light as a cue. So in absence of light, your body starts producing melatonin and prepares for sleep.
This would also make sense, as so many of us can go, well, but I don't feel tired. I don't feel tired yet. Well, and if you have that light coming at you all the time, of course, you're not giving your body a chance to feel tired. So you're really
Exactly.
just feeding that animal there. So light's definitely a big one. What are some other ways that we're sabotaging our sleep? Are there things we should be mindful of?
Yeah, definitely. It's important for us to move every day. So our bodies need exercise. And it doesn't have to be strenuous exercise like CrossFit or running a marathon or something like that.
Good.
Because I know that scares people. Yeah, it scares people away. But we need to move. So even, a 20 to 30-minute walk every day and movement, like that adds as a physical stressor that makes us more tired. So that's really key to sleeping as well.
Okay, so it's almost the like toddler effect. Like we're trying to run ourselves, like get ourselves a little tired.
Yeah, exactly. Like our bodies need that,
Yeah.
It's only, again, in recent history that we're sitting all day long behind computers and
Behind an
not moving
artificial
as
light.
much.
So those two things right there. We're not moving and we got the
Yeah.
light there. So there were two things against us for not being able to sleep. So just working, guys, we're sabotaging our sleep. Many of us. So, and then our foods are absolutely a factor as well. So would you say those are kind of the main things to look at?
Yeah, there's something else about food though, and that has to do with blood sugar. So that's another reason why you can wake up in the night, and I'll explain how that works. So say you start your day off with a pastry and a cup of coffee, your blood sugar spikes really high, and then your body produces insulin, and then it drops really low, and then you crave those foods again because your body wants quick energy. So if you have something else like that, refined sugar, refined flour, sweet drinks, all all of those things are going to spike your blood sugar really high again. And you're on this big roller coaster where your blood sugar levels are going really high, really low. And whenever your levels drop too low, your body releases cortisol because it's stressed. And so if
Back
you're
to the
on that roller,
cortisol.
I know. So if you're on that roller coaster all day, then you're also going to be on that at night. And when your blood sugar levels drop too low in the night, your body releases cortisol, suppresses melatonin, and you're awake.
Wow.
So yeah, so keeping your blood sugar levels steady is really key. And so that means starting off your day with some protein, some fat, yes, some complex carbohydrates are good too. And keeping that blood sugar level more even keel instead of the big highs and the big lows.
So that's a big note to the desserts, the dinner desserts, I would say, right? Something that can actually really affect that sleep. So we get that big spike and then it drops and then our body's craving it more and it's waking us up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is actually a perfect thing. So as we're talking about something like that, where waking up in the middle of the night may seem normal, but it sounds like it could actually very much be a sign of a problem. So my question is, how do we know? Are there certain normal things that are just, that's just part of life? Or how do we know when like, this is a problem?
Yeah.
I need to find someone like Martha.
Yeah, that's a great question. Because technically no one sleeps all night without waking up. Like we go through about 90-minute sleep cycles. And as you transition from one to the next, we have what are called partial arousals. And you might remember these, you might not, but this tends to be when you flip over and change position, or like I get up and go to the bathroom once every night and go back to bed. So it's during those transitions that happens. So those are normal. Ideally, you should fall back asleep quickly. And to me, the best way to know if you're getting enough rest is how you feel. So you can buy all the sleep trackers and calculate how much time you're spending in deep sleep and REM sleep and all that. But if you feel tired every day, you're either not getting enough sleep or you're not getting enough quality sleep. And so
that's a key thing you said right there is the quality sleep, because somebody may go, well, I'm getting 8 hours or whatever the magic number, I'm getting 9 hours, whatever, between that 7 and 9 every night. I don't get it. What's the problem?
Yeah.
And it's the quality that's missing. It's that the deep sleep, the cycles, the cortisol levels, all of those things that can be the problem. So how you feel, if you're just tracking the hours, that's not enough to give us the full picture, right?
Yeah,
so we really
exactly.
we actually need to be mindful of how we feel, people, like you
Right?
guys. We need to go, how do I actually feel? If I feel miserable, the numbers don't matter. So that's when they would go and find somebody like you where they can go, because I don't think it's still I don't know that it's very new, but I would say it's still something that isn't in our face. And a lot of people know, well, I'm having problems sleeping, they go find my sleep consultant. A lot of time we go to the doctor, and unfortunately in those situations we're usually given some sort of pill, or maybe the doctor's on the other side and he's like, hey, you need some stress reduction. If you're like, I don't need that, just give me the quick fix. Give me
right. Exactly.
so and what we're learning is that even that quick fix actually is very temporary and it's not a long-term solution. So in that situation, we can go find someone like you. And then what do we do? What would that experience be like?
Yeah, so my main program that includes the lab testing. First of all, I would start with a discovery call. So I can talk about what's going on, come up with a plan, make sure that that you're a good fit. I'm not helping people with sleep disorders or treating or diagnosing sleep disorders. So it's more,
what would be the difference there?
Yeah, good question. Well, I mean, sleep apnea is one we hear about all the time.
Right,
so I'm not dealing with that. But
like
even
a clinical condition as well.
Right.
Okay.
But even there is a clinical condition of insomnia that most people actually don't meet. And I remember being really frustrated with this because like I used to call it insomnia when I couldn't sleep, right? Like it's our general term. But to meet the clinical definition of insomnia there are 5 main criteria. Like you only sleep 6.5 hours a night. You wake up however many times for at least 30 minutes at a time, like, and a few more. So a lot of people don't meet those. So they don't have this technical sleep disorder, but they're not sleeping,
right,
as much as they want to, and they don't feel good. And so those are the people I'm helping. But
Okay.
yeah, but I do need to make sure that we're a good fit so we can talk about that. And then if you are, then I send these lab tests, and they can be done in your own home anywhere in the world. And then you just send them back
Amazing.
in. So you don't have to go to a doctor or anything else to do that. And do you want me to talk about those lab tests a little bit?
Sure.
What they
Yeah.
are? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are 5 tests. One is called a GI map, or a gastrointestinal map. And that is a fun stool test.
Woohoo.
But yeah, but that tells us if you have a parasite, if you have bacterial overgrowth,
Okay.
if you have leaky gut, and which is an unhealthy gut lining. And so then we know what to do there. And then I do a food sensitivity test that tests about 90 different foods.
Wow.
Yeah, then I do a really comprehensive hormone test that looks at all the steroid hormones, which is cortisol, and then our sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone.
Okay.
And then a thyroid test,
Mm.
and yeah, and a hair tissue mineral analysis to give us your mineral status.
Wow. There is
Yeah,
no stone or stool left unturned here. Is there?
I like it, right? Yeah, exactly. And all that information I then piece together and figure out what's going on, and then we talk about how we're going to deal with that. And I use a lot of supplements and herbs. Occasionally I have to refer someone to their doctor, but not usually for the most part.
Right.
So
But then
yeah,
at least they know why they're going. There's some sort of direction and path at this point, as opposed to, hey doc, I'm not sleeping. I don't know why. So I think at that point, if you're sending someone, you're giving them some information to come in with, some
right.
sort of direction to go towards. So that is comprehensive. That is amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. It's just, it's so, and it absolutely makes sense now as we were going through your bio and your interest that you have this master's in nutrition, you come into sleep consultant, all of these things, and how they may at first seemingly seem unrelated, but they are the perfect hand in hand of what we need. That's amazing. One thing I wanted to ask, as you were talking about some of the issues and that people come to you with, you mentioned in your own experience that as a new mom, I think many of us who have been in that situation, we definitely know the sleepless baby nights. We know what it's like for them not to sleep through the night. And I don't think we need any convincing to get help to put them to sleep. Like, yes, sign me up 10 times over. But I think we definitely accept our own lack of sleep as new parents as just the norm. Of course, one part of that is because the baby keeps waking up. How do we know when we can get help, when it's actually, hey, it doesn't have to be this way?
Yeah, I mean, during the newborn stage, obviously, you're going to be up in the night a lot. That's just how it goes. But by the time they're three months old is when you can officially sleep train or teach them these independent sleep skills.
Okay.
And by 6 months old, almost every baby can sleep through the night. So they
Okay.
have that physical ability to go 12 hours without needing calories. And so they
Mm.
can sleep through the night. So I would say, yeah, it just depends on you. Like, I'm really sensitive to being sleep deprived. By the time my son was 12 weeks old, I'm like, but he was waking up every hour or two all night long. Like, it
Yeah.
was horrible. And I couldn't live with that. Some people do actually live with that.
Yeah, they just
But
go, okay, this is my new normal. And
yeah,
so ultimately, if you can get your child on the sleep schedule by about 6 months, which means they're sleeping through the night, and you're still not, you're still
right.
having issues regardless, and they're not the ones waking you up, then it's probably time to go see what some solutions are for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, this is just amazing. I love the whole comprehensive approach. I love all these pieces that we're looking at. That there's just, we're looking at all the pieces, and it sounds like it lends itself to so much more than sleep as well. Because as we're looking at our health, at our gut health, and our food, I mean, this is just really helping us improve so many areas of our life. And sleep is just like the bonus effect. Like, and I get to sleep on top of that. It sounds
Yeah,
fantastic.
exactly.
So when do we come to you? I mean, do we have to wait till rock bottom?
That's up to you. It takes a lot of people to get to that point to ask for help.
Right.
And I think part of the problem is too, like I said, some people have really been struggling this for a long time. And it's really frustrating when you go online and your choices are avoid screens or go to a sleep disorder clinic, and there's really nothing else. So I see how people don't have hope that it can be
Yeah.
fixed. And so I think people just learn to live with it. And so I want to tell you that you don't, like there is a reason you aren't sleeping. There is a physiological reason. There is a psychological reason, and we can figure it out. So that's the good news about all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be the new normal. And can someone come to you if maybe, let's go back to our high performance overachievers there. Not that every high performance has to be an overachiever, but from the overachiever standpoint, those who are like, well, I don't want to get to that point. Can we work with you on a preventative basis?
Oh, yes, of course, for sure.
So just learning kind of the good
Yeah.
techniques, like being ahead of it, like, look, just do my scans, check all my stuff. Let me know if there's something I should be looking out for before I get to that point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what was interesting for me is I found out I had a parasite,
Mm.
and I probably had it since I traveled in Asia about 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, but what happens is that when your body produces a lot of cortisol, then that can damage your organs also.
Yeah.
And so then your body produces cortisone to protect your organs. And my cortisone levels were really high, which means that, cortisol has been in threat of damaging my organs. So even though
Wow.
I was already sleeping well, pretty well, I actually sleep
Right.
a lot better now, feel more rested now. But yeah, to know that that's going on in my body and to fix it has been such a relief for me.
That
And
is huge.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
had gotten to where I can't tolerate drinking alcohol very much anymore. And now it all makes sense because my liver has been damaged by
Mm.
this. But maybe now I can fix it. So that's
Yeah.
that's why it's
That's the
good to know
power
what's
that you
going
give them
on.
back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how, so we're back, since we're back on the parasite, what are some normal ways that people may catch that? Because someone may hear that, well, I haven't been traveling in Asia, I don't need to worry about that. But it's more common, like you said, than people think. What are some other ways?
Well, yeah, it's saying a lot of them, they're all different. There are lots of different kinds of parasites, but a lot of them are in contaminated food and water.
Mm.
I mean, one big one that's common in Americans is Giardia. I don't know if it
Right.
is where you are, but it's in our water, like it's in our streams. It's
Yeah,
in,
like just swimming in the river, having a good time in the lake, you
well,
can,
yeah,
you know.
mostly if you swallow it.
Right, of course, but that's what I mean. Like when you're swimming, you get a
Yeah,
little bit in your
yeah,
mouth. Like, I mean,
right.
I'm Californian,
Yeah,
so God knows we've had enough. Like, you get enough ocean water, it just happens. You're like, you'll be fine. But it
right.
happens, and that's how
Yeah,
that stuff
yeah.
can actually get in. And
Yeah,
yes, relatively
exactly.
harmless, but we may not notice. I don't feel my liver being damaged. We don't notice
Right.
those things. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there are lots of ways that we get parasites, even in our very sanitized
Yeah.
days. Yeah.
Right, right. Different foods, different things that come across. So there are a lot of things. So wow, we have so many things to look at here to, again, just hear you guys again, hearing that sleep is so important. It is so vital to this healthy life as we're on this show looking at ways to live our best life. And a lot of times we have people who, send suggestions to the show, and they want to hear about the latest trend, or the cabbage diet, or whatever the thing is. And then we come and go, guess what, it's sleep. Like, that's the hottest trend. That's the thing that is really going to make a difference to live that best life. That's what's affecting your, you want to be that successful entrepreneur, sleep. You want to have better relationships, sleep. And I know it just, that people always think we're crazy sometimes, but it's like that, it's that much of a secret weapon. It's that much of the trending new medicine, guys. Like, it's actually sleep. And we are in a society that has lost the value of sleep, that has learned how we can move so fast, we can do so much cool stuff, but we forgot like the power of this and the necessity of this thing. And also all the other parts of our body that can be affected in different areas that can affect the sleep, right? We talked about our diet, our being sedentary, the new technology of the lights. There's so many other pieces. So again, even if you are, perhaps you're like, hey, you guys, I'm getting the 8 hours, but we just said, that in itself may not be enough. How do you feel? So there's so many pieces to look at here and to accept and to go, all right, it's time to make a change. It's time to make this a priority. If you're already having problems, like we need to do something about it. And if you're, if you're not, you can actually be proactive and say, okay, I want to catch it before something goes wild. So let's get it checked out. So as we've dealt with like pediatric, we've looked at like new parents kind of situation, general sleep problems. Are there anything else, maybe with older kids or something else to be aware, just to cover all the areas here?
I mean, I guess with older kids, if we're talking teenagers, it's knowing that they truly do have a later body clock. Their body clocks get set 2 or 3 hours later. And so they're not being lazy because they want to stay up till midnight and sleep until noon. Like that's what their bodies need. And luckily there's more awareness of that. And some schools are starting later to, to make that easier on them. And same with anyone, as far as body clocks go, like our circadian rhythm is determined by genetics. It's really hard to change. So there are true night owls out there who aren't tired until late and want to sleep late, but society is more based on an early bird or kind of that middle of the road. And so it can be hard for night owls. So,
I would say there's also a fine line, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's also a fine line there too. I think sometimes people get into a rhythm of where they just haven't been asleep, and then they just say, well, that's because I'm a night owl.
Oh, yeah, that can be true.
Right?
And if you're
So
staying up till 2 in the morning or something, like that's another story.
Right.
But yeah. But if you try, if a night owl tries to go to bed at 10, they're not going to be able to. It's just how it is.
And would you help them, help somebody identify that?
Yeah. Yep. That's part of what I do. Yeah.
Okay. I'd be really interested in that because I know they exist. I've read about the chronotypes. If you guys haven't read about chronotypes, there's definitely, like she said, the body clock of people. But I'm really apprehensive to believe as many people who want to say they're night owls as they're just being stubborn. And so I would say like, get yourself checked out. So then that way you can, come with your certificate and go, you know what? Forget you, Tanya. I got the proof right here. I am a night owl. Stop your judgment. This is where I am. But yeah, so there absolutely are those people. But before you think that is what you are, I would say go and get it checked out. Make sure you're not just out of whack. Okay. So
exactly.
You're there. So we've learned that sleep affects not only ourselves, but affects others, being those people around us and how we're being. I mean, this has just been amazing. Before my last question, can you please tell everyone where they can find you, what you have going on, how they can work with you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, my website is thecompletesleepsolution.com. And I have a free ebook on there, the 5 little known reasons high achievers can't sleep and how to fix it. So it's getting into those health issues that we touched on, but with a couple extras in there. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Complete Sleep Solution. And I also have a Facebook group called Sleep and Insomnia Help for Adults. And I'd love to have you join there if you are struggling to sleep.
Yeah. And you go live a lot in that group as well too, right? You share a lot of information and.
Yep. Every week I go live and I try to give a lot of practical things that you can use, again, that you're not finding everywhere else.
That's amazing. Yeah. There's a lot of support there. You have support online that you can come and get this, the 5 tips. So you can already have something to work with right away, and then follow on, the social media and get some tips and information as you go along. And then of course you also have you have a breakthrough session, right? So there's a free version. So if you want to just kind of test the waters and see what it's like. And then you also have a step up where you can get almost like pretty much a consult really, for a fee as well, right?
Yeah, well, the sleep breakthrough session is my free discovery call. And so then we can see if we're a good fit for my bigger program.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So there's all kinds of solutions readily available, guys. Like
exactly.
All it takes is that phone call, that email, that DM, anything like that. So no excuses here. No excuses to be tired. unless it's because you're about to get wonderful sleep. So now moving on from my last question here, what is one thing that the audience can do, that somebody can do that are listening to this, like right away this week or today, that can help them either get better sleep if they're always struggling, or maybe it's just ensuring that they're going to get good sleep? What's one thing you could recommend that people should do, or all people should do?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to be following all those sleep basics, the sleep rules of taking time to wind down at night, getting exercise during the day, eating healthy, keeping your blood sugar level steady. So, but do all of that at once at the same time for a period of time. And then if you still aren't sleeping, it's time to get help. But at least start there.
Right. So start with some of those sleep rules. So if we were to narrow that to one thing, like out of those sleep rules, what would be the most important that maybe they could start with?
I would actually say manage your stress, which we didn't talk about all that much, but take breaks throughout the day. Give your body a chance for those cortisol levels to lower throughout the day so they can more easily lower at night. And that will help for sure.
Okay, so really addressing that stress. You're right. We talked a lot about how the stress creates the cortisol and does those things, but not so much how to manage that, which again, I think it's something that gets thrown around so easy. Like, we need to manage stress, we need to reduce stress, but really having those steps to work towards it and to do it is still up in the air, I think, for a lot of people. So one way that you're suggesting is to take breaks throughout the day.
Yep. About every 90 minutes, take a 10-minute break.
Okay.
Get up, leave your computer, leave your phone, do something relaxing, do some deep breathing, or step outside, or go for a walk if you have time.
Okay.
But yeah, just give
That's just a 10
a
minute
chance to
every
relax.
90 minutes. So you may work a really long day. Let's say you're working an 8 to 10 hour day or something, or that, high performance. And maybe you have a very stressful day, but just taking a 10-minute break every 90 minutes can already help us reduce it. Is it because it's not prolonged? Is it because the stress isn't prolonged, or?
Yeah, exactly. We're giving it a chance to lower. Yeah.
Right. Because we had someone else on here who was explaining that level, when it stays sustained and never has a chance to reset, we're actually running towards that chronic inflammation, and can actually lead to diseases and all kinds of problems. So we're just instituting like the reset button by doing that.
Yep.
I love that. Okay. That is simple enough, guys. A 10-minute break. She's not even telling you in half an hour. I know some are like, I can't stop, I gotta work. But this is your health. This is your future performance. This is a business decision for those entrepreneurs out there. If you really want to meet somewhere, you want to get ahead, then 10-minute break every 90 minutes, like, come on, you can do that. You can do that as a business decision. Okay. I love that. So that is going to be, there's all kinds of great rules that she said, guys, that calming effect moving into sleep. But if you take nothing else from that, let's do this 10-minute break every 90 minutes while we're over there high performance overachieving. Okay.
Yes.
So that is amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Martha. Are there any last thoughts or anything you want to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want you to know that if you aren't sleeping, then there's a reason why, and we can figure it out, because you are meant to sleep well.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. Well, you guys, sleep is not a joke. It is the key to your health and your success. So make sure to connect with Martha on social media at Complete Sleep Solution to get tips for better sleep. And if you or someone you know is suffering with sleep problems, get on the phone, get on that breakthrough session, and get support right away. I usually say, don't sleep on this opportunity, but this is the one opportunity where you're going to get the sleep. So we need it. Get in contact with her and then get sleepy. So that is what we need to do. So as always, you can connect with us at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk on Facebook and Instagram, and learn more about our courses, workshops, and coaching at tanyamfk.com. And if you like this episode, then make sure to subscribe, follow, and be notified when our next one is up by clicking that button now. And remember, your someday starts today. Make it the best. I'm Tanyamfk, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. You can catch us every week at 1 p.m. EST live on the My Design Life Show Facebook page and on YouTube at the Tanyamfk channel. See how the challenges go by following us on Facebook and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk. Do you have a method, tip, or hack you'd like to share or explore? Submit to be a guest or suggest a topic by visiting mydesignlife.show.